Attention, attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So the obviously the infrastructure bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which would have passed, and therefore that's the problem, was going to come up for a vote on Thursday, didn't. There was a possibility it would the next day. Biden came down to meet with them, which is, by the way, isn't it nice? Let's just step back for a second and look at how 70s this whole thing is. I know people will try to equate, Biden with Carter in a bad way or whatever, but there's an element of, there's a huge bill that will do a lot of good for the country. It's a lot of taxpayer funds. It has a lot of complexities, and the president and his team who wrote the bill are coming down to the Senate and the House to meet with everybody. He's on the phone all the time with them, trying to get them on board. The deal making he did with Manchin on the $1.9 trillion rescue plan from peril is beautiful. I mean, it's classic Senate, kind of like friendly version of Lyndon Johnson in many ways. He made it happen. And in the same way, like that's the plan here. And he said yesterday, it's going to happen. Whether it's 6 minutes, 6 hours, 6 days, or 6 weeks, it's going to happen. And he's right. It is going to happen. And more than likely, it's because the bigger bill, the recon bill, will be pared down to something acceptable to Manchin, Sinema, and possibly a couple of other Republicans who are on board with the other infrastructure bill and have been on board with things like paid family leave and allowing Medicare to negotiate prices. All this, there's several things in there that everybody was for a long time. That's why it's a popular bill. There's some stuff in there that people are, cross-eyed about, not sure why it's in there, which again seems like fat to be trimmed, and they knew it. But the idea, in the Progressive Caucus was, we're going to pass this $3.5 trillion bill, and until that passes the Senate, we're not passing the other one. Well, you're not. The $3.5 trillion bill is, and the reason was they believe that if they pass the infrastructure bill, the recon bill would not get passed in its current form. It would be, cut down and made less of what it was. Well, that's what's happening now. There is no version of reality where voting, not voting for the infrastructure bill kept the $3.5 trillion bill where it was. That was supposedly what was supposed to happen out of this. That was what hold the line was supposed to actually make happen. And it absolutely did not. It just started the process that would have happened afterwards a little earlier. But everybody signed on to parallel track anyways. It's just an unnecessary gambit of 3 weeks of some sort of Mexican standoff. Legislative. You sign it. No, you sign it. No, you sign, and then I'll sign. We'll both put our pens on the paper at the same time. That kind of stuff. And ultimately, the end result, Bernie Sanders says we need to keep it at $3 trillion. Well, it's not going to stay at $3 trillion. It is not. And Bernie Sanders will vote for whatever the final bill is. Bernie Sanders is not going to capsize the infrastructure bill and the $3 trillion, formerly $3 trillion, now probably 1.7 to 2, maybe as low as 1.5. And I went through this a little bit, and we went through what's in the bills and what's available and yada yada yada, and on my show on Friday. And when it comes to what's in community college, right? You're going to pay for 2 years of free community college. That's going to be in the bill. And everybody's like, Kristen Sinema's holding out, and Bernie Sanders is trying to get this through. Well, in Bernie Sanders' state, his state gets 3 times as much money in this bill as Arizona does for free college tuition. College tuition is a state cost, I guess, that they've established, and it will stay there. So for every student that they send to community college, the state will get $6,000, 6.6, so 2.8 or $6,628, and then Arizona gets $2,200 per student. even with ASU, even with all that stuff. And that's where some of the negotiation is starting to seize up, because elements of the Progressive Caucus put a lot of stuff in the bigger bill because it's their bill, and they figured the infrastructure bill would be pared down. That is unequal state to state. And some of the states are pushing back on that, and two of them in particular, mainly Arizona, is the biggest pushback, and that's just one sector of it. The reality is it has not gone through markup in the Senate, and that's going to hold it up for time no matter what, and it's going to shear stuff out of it. And it's a great bill. It's got a lot of great stuff in it. It's also padded with stuff you can take out to make people feel good. And you can give them a win at home. I got this for us, but I also got rid of some of the fat. I trimmed the fat. I'm the trim the fat person. I got you this road, but they wanted it to have, glow in the dark lines, and we don't like that out here. It scares the birds out here in rural Virginia. So that kind of stuff. And the number about infrastructure spending, like I said, has been somewhere in the order of we need a $5 to $11 trillion facelift in this country in terms of infrastructure. That's what we need to be like the futuristic country that we are, to exemplify the quality of life and the available technology and all those things. We can do that, and we have it within our, that is a totally possible thing to do over the course of 10 to 20 years. And the cost of not doing it also has to factor in. That's the one thing that nobody likes to talk about. That's where climate change conversations become the most relevant, is where people talk about, well, if you do this, it's going to cost us a bunch of money. Well, if you don't do it, it's going to cost you more money and lives, and people will lose their businesses and that kind of stuff. And so that's the argument that needs to be made more often, I think, in the climate conversation around direct pollution and sea rise and that kind of stuff, that we need to shore up Miami against sea rise and all that kind of stuff. And you'll start to see, like, Florida Republicans are all in on that kind of stuff. Infrastructure for shoring up the beaches in Miami, unless you bring up that the reason they're eroding in the first place is climate change. And then they like, squirrel, right? So there will be a version of this. My guess is 1.7, somewhere in that ballpark, under 2, somewhere a shave under 2, like the $1.9 trillion rescue package. And since it's over 10 years, and what they can do is they can lower the corporate tax rate. They were going to raise it by 5 points. They can cut it by 2.5. They can raise it by 2.5, 2.5. Yeah. So that's that's my prediction about how they're kind of working it out right now as far as the material aspects of it. And in many ways, I still have faith that both of them will pass. But there is simply no way that Kristen Sinema is going to vote for the $3.5 trillion. She's just not going to, in its form, without markups, without it going through, or without her getting to, put something in or take something out. And we don't know what that is yet. So the idea of holding the other bill hostage for her, to force her to get the $3.5 trillion bill passed, failed this week. Because the $3.5 trillion bill is dead in its current form. It will not pass at 3.5. It will pass at 1.7, 1.5. That's just the reality of it. And people were getting mad at me yesterday for bringing this up as all this stuff sort of unfolded, as if threatening Kristen Sinema with primarying or censure or something is a possibility or even a reality in the time frame we're looking at. And it is not. And ultimately, if she decides at one point to switch parties, the Republicans have control of the Senate. If she decides to go independent, she can caucus back and forth however she wants and is no longer a sure vote. And there's an argument that there are 50 Republicans and only, in this case, there will be 47 Democrats. The other 3 caucus with him and will vote with him. But if you can peel off Kristen Sinema's votes We're at a stalemate. We're done. So this is, this is the real, this is why I said it was the colonoscopy of the sausage factory this week. This is the reality. So the gambit to not allow the vote, the conventional wisdom, we went way over the break. Conventional wisdom is, we'll take a break in just a second. The conventional wisdom is that holding the line will make them pass this $3.5 trillion bill so that we know it will get through, and then we'll pass the infrastructure bill. And that's how we'll guarantee the recon bill will get through. And that's not what's happening. That failed this week. That strategy fell apart because what ultimately happened was they withheld that vote, and the $3.5 trillion bill is not going to get passed as is going to be pared down before the other bill gets written, and they'll have to sit there in maybe 6 weeks and twiddle their thumbs if they don't want to pass the infrastructure bill and get on with it while this bill is being cut down smaller and smaller and smaller to the point it will pass. And there's no one in the House that will not vote for the bill no matter how small it gets. So there is no leverage against Sinema. And there's none against the Republicans at all. At all. So is there a way I wish things were? Yeah, absolutely. I wish we had 56 senators. Then we wouldn't even be talking about this. We'll be back.
Yeah.